Hey guys, Montel here. Welcome to this edition of Free Thinking with Montel. I'm all about bringing actionable insight and powerful stories that inspire us all. And today is no exception. We've got a special episode dedicated to understanding the profound impact of Multiple Sclerosis Association of America, MSAA, on individuals and the MS community at large. Joining us today is Gina Murdoch, the president and CEO of MSAA, to shed light on the invaluable work that MSAA does. But before we get started, I want to let you know that I want to share something to you, a little news. I am incredibly honored to be the keynote speaker at the MSAA's Women of Action luncheon happening on April 17th, 2024 in Atlanta, Georgia. It's an opportunity to come together, support, and amplify the efforts of an organization close to my heart. For more information, you can visit mymsaa.org. That's mymsaa.org. And this is something you don't want to miss, especially if you're in the Atlanta area. And I'm sure that there's information up there about how you can donate to MS if you choose to. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Ms. Gina Murdoch to Free Thinking with Montel. Gina, thank you for being a part of the show today.
Well, thank you so much, Montel. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining our event. Everybody is super excited to see you in Atlanta, so thank you for making the time. But thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk a little bit today about the Multiple Sclerosis Association of America and how we're working to support the MS community. So the organization has been around for over 50 years supporting the MS community, and we are a resource for free programs and services, education, information, connection. Our mission is improving lives today. So every day we look at how can we improve the lives of those living with MS.
Exceptional. Now, March is MS Awareness Month. Could you explain a little bit about the significance of the month and to the MS community and what MSAA has lined up for the month?
Absolutely. This is perfect timing. So every March, what we do is we look at putting together a program for the whole month on areas that are of interest and need to the MS community. So this particular MS Awareness Month, we're really focusing on improving lives through supportive connections. And what we mean by that is really focusing on the power of social interactions and connections and mental health awareness and support in order to create better quality of life and well-being and improve care for those living with MS. So as part of our MS Awareness Month program, we have our own three podcast series with Dr. Amy Sullivan, really talking about finding joy in the process and managing mental health through working with MS. So we have the three podcasts that we're having, and then we have a webinar at the end of the month with Dr. Barry Hendon, who is our Chief Medical Officer, really talking about elevating the conversation around mental health and well-being. So really for the whole month, what we're looking at is making sure that we're talking about the importance and power of those connections that everybody needs in the MS community and we all need.
Absolutely. Now, talk a little bit about how MSAA differentiates itself from some of the other organizations that focus on MS.
Sure. We really started as an organization focusing on the importance of quality of life, the patient voice, and really self-advocacy. So that's really where we started as an organization, and we live that mission today. One of the unique programs that MSAA provides, and we've been providing this program for over 20 years, is our MRI Access Program. So if an individual is eligible, they can apply for our program, and MSAA will work with them in order to cover the cost of their MRI. That might be for diagnostic, it might be to manage their disease, but this is the only program in the MS patient advocacy space that provides this type of absolutely critical underwriting. We do about 1,000 MRIs a year. This year, we might be on par to do about 1,500 MRIs. And I'm sure you can understand how absolutely critical it is to get that MRI. And if somebody can't get it, what an access to care, a barrier that is. So MSAA differentiates itself by being there to help support getting that MRI, having conversations, monitoring disease, and making sure that is not a barrier to care.
Absolutely. And can you talk a little bit to us about, that are there any recent initiatives or new breakthroughs, new resources that MSAA has developed?
Absolutely. So, kind of going off of wanting to make sure that we are steeped in shared decision making, we launched a really amazing tool about a year ago called the Ultimate MS Treatment Guide. And what it is we really saw that there was a need in the MS community for those living with MS and healthcare providers to have a single source of information about MS and about the treatment options. So, what we did is we created a landing page that has all the FDA approved treatments on there. You can sort them by, how they're administered. You can sort them by when they were approved. But all of the information is very much from the label. It's unbiased. It's factual. So an individual could go in and say, what are my options? Wonderfully, we have a lot of options and treatments now. So they have an opportunity to go through this landing page and see the different options. There's also healthcare providers that have a short video about when they would prescribe this medication, and videos from patients, not it's really talking about how do they make that decision, what's important to them when they were looking at treatment, what are those things that went through their mind in their decision making process. As new FDA approved treatments are coming through, we will update it so it is a dynamic tool, but really for those living with MS who are newly diagnosed or looking to change. It is a one-stop landing page that has information about all of the treatments so that you can go there, get the information, and make an informed decision.
And we do know that everybody who has this illness suffers pretty much differently than everyone else. Though there are some common
Absolutely.
symptoms, MS is really very distinct in an illness from the standpoint that each individual has their own set of symptoms and has their really own trajectory. So not every medication fits all, but
Absolutely.
all what we do know now is that the earlier there is a medical intervention, it appears to show over time that those people who jump or reached out for treatment earlier seem to progress a little differently and in some cases a little better than others.
Well, and having the information all in front of you in an easily user-friendly way gives people an opportunity to make comparisons and thoughts and start conversations with their healthcare providers and really start that shared decision making and say, well, I've heard about this, I've read about this, and really have what could be a good conversation and a way to be really involved and dedicated to their protocol. So it's all about making sure the information is easily accessible and user-friendly.
Gotcha. Now you're at the helm of this organization, but what motivates you to be personally involved in this fight for MS?
So I am motivated by stories, and I have been involved in the MS community. I started in 1996, so long time ago, and there wasn't really the awareness about the disease. There wasn't the understanding. There wasn't the medical treatments, and it's been amazing to see all of the progress since then. So I'm motivated by how far we've come as just a country and being aware of people living with MS and being accepting and inclusive. But I'm also motivated by how much we still have to do. There's so much more that we need to do in finding treatments, in connecting with people, in providing resources. So I am amazingly inspired by those living with MS. That's my accountability. I know that everything that we do, there is a family behind it that I am accountable for, and making sure that we as an organization and me as its lead are doing everything that we can to live our mission and have that accountability. So those living with MS and their stories is what motivates me and keeps me accountable.
Just for people at home to understand, you have a long and storied history working with organizations when it comes to reaching out and helping others. Why don't you tell a little bit about your background?
So I've not only worked with the MSAA, I've also worked with the American Diabetes Association. I've also worked with Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and I've worked with the National MS Society. So really my whole career has been about really understanding that patient's story, validating that patient's story, and doing everything I can possibly to make sure that the programs and services that we have, the funding that we need, the research, whatever that is going back to those patients. So I am incredibly inspired by the struggles, the accomplishments, everything, the researchers, the advocates, everything with that. And I have found great humbling inspiration in health nonprofits and health causes. And I'm truly honored to be here today and kind of continuing that accountability, that connection, and that inspiration.
For such a long time, MS was considered I do a lot of work with what they call, what is it, orphan diseases. And
Mm-hmm.
has MS finally graduated out of that category? Because, I'm going to go back, if I went back now to 25 years ago when I was diagnosed, I remember being diagnosed and officially, but I should have been diagnosed 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I go back 40 years ago, there used to be a disease that was at that time categorized as being, under 150,000 people in America having the disease, which was then a total lie. When I first got diagnosed, I literally paid for two different studies, one by Zogby, one by Gallup. And back in 2000, the numbers were well over 1.5 million, even though at that time the National MS Society was reporting numbers still below 300,000. We did two studies with Zogby and Gallup, and both of those came back as a minimum of 1.2 million. And now, as I see studies come out now, I kind of see the numbers around 1.5, 1.25 million. And I'm thinking to myself, will we finally ever tell the truth? And I'm not saying that as an aspersion against any of the organizations. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, unfortunately, we don't get a true number. This is no longer an orphan disease. This is a disease that's affecting a lot of people in this country. And do we really have real numbers now?
Well, I think you make an interesting point, and the number that we look at right now is we talk about nearly 1 million people living with MS, and you're right. We that number probably there's probably more. I think what is been real progress in certainly I would assume the time since you were diagnosed, and certainly I can say from my personal experience is the more and more we've talked about it, the more and more advocates have been out there, the more and more there's options for treatment, the more and more people are telling their stories, the more people that are seeking out treatment, are taking care of their health, are leaning into what the resources are available for any organization or for any healthcare provider. So the more we're talking about it, the more we're normalizing MS as a disease, as a situation in the United States, I think more and more people are going to know about it, and certainly, that's always the goal: is make sure that they're seeking treatment, they're taking care of their health. So as we elevate, and as you wonderfully have done for years, and I've been so inspired to listen to your podcasts and see you in other aspects as advocates like you, that you are public about it. It gives others license to come forward about it. So I think that there is a wonderful evolution that I've seen in my time about talking about it, about being honest about it, about having conversations about it, about talking to your healthcare provider. And that is amazing progress. Is the more people are talking about it, they want to get involved in clinical trials, they want to get involved in helping others. There is a momentum in community and conversation that I think helps all of the community and helps the advocates there also tell other people about how they can help the community.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. I mean, I think one of the things that's very interesting is that I can remember back before I was diagnosed, some of the information that was out, and I got misdiagnosed for 20 years through my entire military career. I had it, but I was probably misdiagnosed with it. And then after I got out of the military, I finally sought, some care from some other doctors that finally came up with the diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And I remember distinctly that when I was finally diagnosed, I thought it was very interesting that there wasn't a person that I spoke to that didn't have a family member or a friend or a cousin or somebody who had the disease. Now, I mean, it is like, I don't think I've spoken to a person alive who doesn't know another person alive who has it. So if I'm in a conversation, it's my aunt, my cousin, my sister, my brother, my cousin, so at least people are starting to share that kind of information. And I think we'll finally, is it that important that we know the exact number? I think so, because that makes our society more aware of the fact that we have this scourge that is reverberating down, and that, 1% of the American population level, something like that. But, I agree with you that the fact that more and more people are discussing it, that means that more and more people are reaching out for getting more information and sharing more information and helping others who need to have that information.
And I agree wholeheartedly. And even making that one single connection can be incredibly powerful. I've had board members or people working on committees or something else that may not have known an individual living with MS and been invited to join because they knew a particular person. They start talking about being on a committee, or they talk about what they're doing. And invariably, I will tell them, MS, you may not know, but is closer to you than you realize. And I had somebody come back to me and said, I sent out information that I was participating in this event, supporting MSAA. I didn't know that my boss's daughter was living with MS. I didn't know this one over here. And I tell them that will happen more often, and I'm never surprised. They're always surprised in that, like, how close it was to them, because then it becomes personal. Then it becomes an individual that they know, and regardless of the numbers, they know somebody in that personal connection where that person is not alone. They have a shared support system. Can be so individually powerful, and then that reverberates. So I agree with you that when I talk to people, may not even know what I do. When I talked about that I work in the MS community, invariably somebody says, "Oh, I know someone," or so. And again, that comfort in talking about it and raising the awareness is something that helps everybody and continues the effort towards advocates and individuals to create those connections and realize, mostly, and especially we know that mental health is such a concern, that they're not alone. There are resources, there are people, there are organizations, there are others struggling and surviving and
Thriving.
succeeding.
And some thriving also. As we continue to shed light on multiple sclerosis during MS Awareness Month, many of our listeners are eager to learn about, let's say, any more information about any advancements in research. Can you share any promising new research or developments or in treatments for MS that you've heard about?
So there's so much exciting research going on. And again, kind of having that 25 years perspective, there is amazing work doing in a lot of different areas. One of the things that, MSAA talks about really is important is the fact of getting involved in clinical trials. We talk a lot about the importance of talking to your healthcare provider about getting involved in research and really being an active participant in it. What we do is we gather a lot of the information that comes out of a lot of the medical conferences, and what we do is we aggregate it together and make sure that it gets out to the community for the wide variety of research that's going on. So if people want to be engaged, they want to be educated, they want to talk to their healthcare providers about it. We really see ourselves as a gatherer and a clearinghouse of getting all of that information out, because there are a myriad of different ways that they're looking at researching MS. So we want people to be involved in clinical trials, aware of what's going on, and have conversations and be aware and active.
If they go to the website, will they be able to find out about some of the clinical trials that are out there to see if they can get information about how to enroll?
They absolutely will. If they go to mymsaa.org, there's information, the What's New in MS Research publication that we have, they can see that all there. And there's links to all the different information. And there is information. We work with a company called Antidote, and they work with us on helping to kind of cull down some of the clinical trial aspects. If somebody's interested in participating, we have a tool on our website to make that a little bit easier and user-friendly to find a clinical trial in your area that might be interesting.
And does anything pop to mind about some breakthrough that just happened, or any information like that you'd like to share right now?
Well, I think that there's so much exciting work going on. I'd hate to pick one. We appreciate the fact that there's so much different research going on, and people are looking at it in different ways. And every year we make advances. When I started, there was only 3 medications. There was the ABC. Now there's over 20. The research is progressing every day and in exciting and new ways. And I think it's great to have conversations. We talk about it. We get engaged. And then, who knows what's on the horizon next?
Right. Well, it's increasingly just as important that you guys have been really shining a light on the fact that, mental health is as important to, any of the research that's going on right now when it comes to MS. Talk a little bit about some of the guidance that MSAA offers to those who may be struggling with, the psychological impacts of living with this disease.
Absolutely. So we want people to know that there are resources out there and there is help and there is connection. One of the resources that we have is our helpline. So we have a helpline open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and people can call in, ask questions, get referrals for resources. So there certainly is people that they can talk to. We have some podcasts, some webinars, publications, information, really talking about the importance about talking about mental health and talking
And people can find out about all those if they go up on the MSAA
they
website.
can. We also have an interesting pilot program that we're working on with a company called Talkspace that is an online mental health provider that provides HIPAA compliant support and therapists for individuals. And we have this pilot going on where MSAA is working with them to provide some mental health services to those living with MS. And if they want to go to the website, they can find out a little bit more about that pilot program, but that's really an interesting way that we're looking at what we can learn from this pilot and use that to kind of make future programs and services and how we can really focus even more. We also have, as I mentioned, with the MS Awareness Month, we have the program coming up on March 25th on elevating conversation about mental health and MS from Dr. Hendon. So what we want people to know is, first of all, that there are resources, there are people who can help, there's information, there is support, they're not alone.
Absolutely. And now the Women in Action luncheon in April, I'm thrilled to be a part of this, I'll tell you that. But to our listeners, what can they expect from events like this? And is this event going on around the country or just in Georgia?
So super excited, and I can tell you, everybody is so excited to have you there, Montel. Everybody, you are the jewel of the day. So we're so excited to have you. Yes, so this is an event that started in New Jersey, then we have one in Atlanta, and the idea really is to bring this across the country to other communities. And we are thrilled to be having a great showing in Atlanta. So what we're doing is we're bringing all of the MS centers together. We have representation from all of the MS centers. We have a committee together that is mostly individuals living with MS, really coming together to celebrate community connection in an inspiring, fun way. We have a networking reception. We have an auction there as well. You're going to be our keynote, have a wonderful conversation with that. And then we have our fashion show. And what is so unique about this fashion show is every individual is living with MS. And when they're introduced, we talk a little bit about the fashion, but what we talk about is their story, is their individual, their connection with MS and something that is special and unique about them. And it really is about the whole person, not just the MS or not just the clothing. It is about the individual and the strength of their story, the strength of talking about that they everything that makes them them. So we have this fashion show with all the individuals. We have healthcare providers, we have our industry partners, we have community partners, we have family members, we have everybody really coming together for the event. So people can go on mymsaa.org/Atlanta WOA for Women of Action and join us there. It is wonderfully fun. You can bid on the auction items online. You can find some of that, but really the whole day is about celebration of individual stories, of the power of those stories, of coming together, having 4 different MS centers involved, and what people can do when they put their minds to it and they make a decision to connect.
I'm really looking forward to being a part of that. Are you going to be streaming that live, or will you just?
We are not streaming it live. However, this is one of the first ones we're doing. Certainly, thoughts for the future. As I said, the intention of this is to take this across the country and look at other communities where we can kind of really create that seed of connection. So we are excited to have New Jersey, Atlanta, and excited where we're going to land next.
That's great. And again, I know you've given it out, but give it out again. Take your time, slow down a little bit. Give out the website one more time. People want to get more
information. MSAA, so it's mymsaa.org. You can find information about programs, resources, research, clinical trials, Women of Action, anything there. Please visit the website. There is contact forms if you have questions that you can reach out to, information about our helpline. We really want to be a resource and a user-friendly resource for the MS community. So I encourage everyone to visit the website, find information. We are here. Our purpose is improving lives today. So I hope that people will go and feel that their lives are improved, and really get what they need. That's what we're here for.
If you had to put on a crystal ball, and I'm going to ask you to do so, but put on a crystal ball. Do you think this is something that, I've been dealing again, like I said, 40 years dealing in this, and in the last 20, you know, though I've seen progress in the fact that there have been other medications that have come to market that for various individuals within the MS community, some of them have found efficaciousness in some of those medications, some have not. Some have found efficacious in one, and others have not found the same in that same medication. Do you see the research focusing in on something? And I hate to use the term because the term is really one that's almost, I think, not true when it comes to any illness. But do you think there's some sort of a cure or something that could coming down the pike in the next few years that could literally stop this thing in its tracks? I'm not sure if we can call it a cure. You may end up being able to eliminate symptoms and still have the illness, but do you think anything like that's on the horizon?
I think that based on, if I go back to where I was and what thought would be possible 25 years ago, I think that there has been such amazing breakthroughs on things that wouldn't have thought be possible 25 years ago. So I believe strongly in the value of research. I believe strongly in the dedication of those who are finding it. I've gone to the medical conferences, and it's stunning of what people are trying, and the dedication and the effort and the innovation and the creativity. So I believe, based on 25 years of being in this community and seeing consistent progress, that consistent progress is continued. And now that we have different medications and we have options and people are talking about it and it's more in the vernacular, there is more conversation about it. So more conversation to means more progress. I think a cure means different things to different people. So I think that is but what I believe in strongly is there is progress, and there is continued progress, and there's a real focus and dedication on what's the next step. How are we going to get further? How are we going to connect? But in the meantime, I think what's really important too is to make sure that that life with MS, the quality of life, the quality of human existence is extremely important, vital, critical, and deserves a lot of focus as well. And that's where we talk about quality of life. Quality of life is absolutely important, as well as the other aspects of it. So until the next chapter starts, we are here to have conversations and be there for a person living with MS, however they need us.
And you talk about it, you said it already, but I'm going to ask you to say it one more time. Could you please share with those who are tuned in right now, who may know someone with MS or may have MS themselves, let them know how important the connection, the human connection with other people is for us. There are so many people who are living with MS who isolate themselves in our community, who embarrassed, afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I could use a myriad of descriptive adjectives to talk about those who shut the door and think people have shut the door on them.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you could just share with them some of the things that you've seen that literally illuminate and orchestrate the power of that human connection.
Well, and you make an excellent point, that it is that sense that they're not alone, that there are others out there. We have my MSAA community, and it's an online forum, and there are thousands of individuals participating, and it's individuals living with MS, it's care partners, it's friends, it's family. It can be completely anonymous, so it does not need to be public, however you feel comfortable. but it is that sense of conversation that people have led to. There's others dealing with what they're dealing with. There's others struggling with what they're struggling. There's others accomplishing. And the conversations often are about living with MS, but also about life in general. And I think that we've all seen, after what we've all been through for the last couple of years, how important social connection is, how should social interactions, the connectedness, and how important that is to all of our mental health. So I think using tools and resources like the My MSA community, or having conversations in other ways, and connecting virtually, connecting in person if you can, all of those are so critically important to focus on, to have access to. I think, again, having conversations about MS and bringing it into everyday language, everyday conversation. There's, a number of people who have been out there talking about their MS, whether they have large platforms, small platforms, whatever that is. That conversation normalizes life with MS. And you never know who you could be talking to, who might have been just diagnosed themselves, might have a family member, have somebody else. But the more we're talking about it, the more people can realize that other people are having this. Other family members, care partners might be struggling. Other parents of children living with MS might be struggling. The more we talk about it, we talk about 6 degrees of separation. The more we talk about it, the more we have conversations, those 6 degrees get smaller and smaller, and there's an opportunity where it becomes a lot closer. And then that closeness, I think, builds trust and engagement and involvement and support. And the more we talk about it, the closer we become.
Absolutely. Well, I can't say thank you enough, Gina Murdoch, for being a part of the show today. Immensely enjoyed our conversation, and I think so did our viewers. And I think a lot of our viewers are going to tune into this and make sure that they reach out to MSAA.org if they want any more information. To you, all my listeners, keep pushing the envelope, thinking freely. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Be well. Gina, you be well too, okay? And
Thank you so much. See you soon.
For sure. Bye-bye now. Thanks for joining me on Free Thinking with Montel. Please make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell to be notified when new episodes post each week. We'd love to hear your feedback, so please send us your comments.